Van Halen had their first and only number one hit with Jump in 1984. They should have easily had a few other number ones, including this surefire, no doubt about it, smash that still rocks today. That story is up next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. Make sure to subscribe right now to join this community. Hit up our Patreon as well for more content. Now, as 1983 rolled into 1984, Van Halen was at the pinnacle of their success. Their LP 1984, released on January 9th, 1984, was a colossal hit. Ultimately, it sold over 17 million copies and would have gone to number one on the Billboard Top 200 Albums chart if it wasn't for a little album called Thriller, which of course Eddie Van Halen played on. The cover of 1984 was the image of a baby smoking a cigarette. It caused a slew of controversy that led to inventory boycotts at some retail outlets in the UK and the US. I actually get dirty looks whenever I wear this. Now, the controversy, though, did nothing to quell the appetite for the record with music fans around the world. What the censors would soon find is that banning a record only makes people want to get it more. If anything, really, a year later when Tipper Gore and the PMRC tried to squelch bands like Van Halen, Wasp, Twisted Sister, and Def Leppard, it actually only increased their popularity. Go figure. The fervor for 1984 was immediate, starting with the album's lead single, Jump, that leaped all the way to the top of the rock and pop charts, becoming Van Halen's only number one single on the Billboard Hot 100. Very surprising. Panama, the third single from 1984, should have been their second number one hit from the album. Once you heard Panama, the song's buzzsaw, one-word chorus rings in your head forever. Flamboyant frontman David Lee Roth wrote Panama and has several great stories of where the song title came from, recounted in a style that only Diamond Dave can characterize. DLR shared that he saw a dragster in Vegas named Panama Express, and that burned an image in his brain. Panama is also the name of DLR's 69 Opel Kadett, a small family car made in Germany by the automobile brand Opel, that Dave displayed on a wall at his primary residence. David Lee Roth had the hood and bumper mounted in a hallway, which can be seen in his video for Shoe Bop. Part of the spectacle is the butt of a stuffed deer crashing through the front windshield of the car and a plaque underneath that reads, "Your first deer, courtesy of Panama." Roth once described Panama as a celebration of the farthest south that you could possibly go and still have a really corrupt good time. Sounds like DLR. That may refer to the geography of the country of Panama, located in Central America, or it may perhaps refer to a stripper that the song is said to be loosely based upon. I don't doubt that for a second. I'm sure all of those elements were very influential in naming the tune, but Panama is unmistakably, undeniably about heat. The heat of a passion, the heat of an advancing tryst, the heat of a dopamine need for speed, which is really what the decade of the 1980s pretty much ran on 24/7, if you think about it.
I feel the need for speed.
And the blinding heat of the open road as DLR narrates in the bridge of the song, "I can barely see the road from the heat coming off of it." I love that.
I can barely see the road from the heat coming off of it.
It is in that riveting segment of the song that the late Eddie Van Halen cranks up more than just the blazing guitar licks from his Kramer 5150. During the bridge, Eddie can be heard revving his 1972 Lamborghini Miura in the background, Miura S actually, the perfect car for the perfect guitarist. The car was actually backed up to a door of Eddie's 5150 recording studio, where they attach microphones to the car's exhaust pipe to get that roaring sound effect.
Reach down.
A stroke of genius that reflected Van Halen's desire to steer the production process of their recorded music. Panama was one of the first tracks to be recorded in the 5150 studio, which Van Halen had built partly as a means of taking control of the band's sound away from longtime producer Ted Templeman. Actually, it's pretty known that Eddie and Templeman constantly butted heads, and Eddie wanted total creative freedom to evolve the Van Halen sound. 5150 is, of course, the police code in the state of California for a mentally unstable person that is creating a disturbance, and it was the name of the next Van Halen album. The first was Sammy Hagar. The racing engine of Eddie's Lamborghini definitely created a disturbance. Eddie claimed that he had to rev the engine up to 8,000 RPM to get the sound that they wanted for the recording at Panama. Incredible. Besides being regarded as one of the greatest guitarists of all time, Eddie was an avid car collector with an enviable line of custom hot rods. Eddie Van Halen created really one of the greatest chorus riffs of the rock era on Panama. But curiously, his memory of inventing the chord structure was hazy, to say the least. In an interview in 2015, Eddie claimed to have no memory of coming up with any of the riffs on Panama. Eddie added that he just doesn't remember the origin of most of his revered guitar work because he was never one to just, kind of sit down and decide to write a song. The empty recall on Eddie's part could be partly explained by the fact that he usually wrote while the band was on tour, and while he was alone in one hotel room after another, he would drink a little vodka, do a little cocaine, and play a tape recorder to provide some company. That may have had something to do with the hazy memory. It wasn't like he kept a journal, wish he would have, or logged his work on hotel stationery or anything like that. Let's be honest, Eddie Van Halen didn't do anything in an orthodox manner. That's what made him great. He just wasn't built that way. He had a magnitude of creativity that even the greatest of guitarists could only marvel at. And he had one of the longest peaks, in my opinion, of any player in musical history. Panama is quintessential David Lee Roth. It's full of his relentless swagger, his wild testosterone, and double entendres like this part.
Reach down between my legs.
It's one of Diamond Dave's most powerful vocal performances, bar none. Supported by, of course, strong background harmony from Van Halen's trusty bassist Michael Anthony, and of course Edward Van Halen, as was always the case. Let's talk about that for a second, though. That's really very important. Van Halen had some of the best background vocals and harmonies of any band in hard rock. Michael Anthony and Eddie, they could just wail. It was as effective as it was unique. We talked about this in the Sammy Hagar interview in the past where, he talked about how great the background vocals were. It really was the secret sauce, or one of the secret sauces. You can see some of that behind the scenes, some of those stories at our Patreon link below. Dave penned the lyrics to Panama in response to a reporter's editorial that he only sings about women, partying, and fast cars. Dave took exception to the reporter implying that he was a stereotypical vacuous rocker. After contemplating on the reporter's criticism, David Lee Roth realized that he had actually never written a song about fast cars. So he decided to oblige, focusing on the cars that were given the name Panama. Reporters really always rubbed DLR the wrong way. He constantly toyed with them, during interviews for his own amusement. Talked about that before. In fairness to that particular reporter's judgment, David Lee Roth, while being a highly intelligent individual, did cater to the classic vortex of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Maybe it's all part of the showmanship. Could be, given that people really giving the people what they want. DLR is without a question one of rock's greatest showmen, the hard rock crooner, if you will. I always loved the music video to Panama as well. Classic Van Halen. Dave doing his thing, Yeah, but my favorite part was watching Eddie's guitar solo, with this red handkerchief. And then Dave crawling on all fours with, Ed and Michael, Anthony behind him jamming. While other kids were emulating Joe Montana, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird in the 80s, me and my pals were watching these guys' every move, their every nuance. Seriously, there will never be a cooler band than Van Halen. By the way, I want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the glasses I'm always wearing. I have like 10 pairs of these things, and they're all great. Go get yourself a pair at the link below. Panama is always a dynamic highlight in the live set of a Van Halen concert. How could it not be? The band members really get caught up in the electrifying energy of performing the track on stage, no matter what venue they're playing. When Van Halen performed a concert on Jimmy Kimmel's outdoor stage in 2015, I believe it was, that was to promote the release of their new Tokyo Dome live and concert album, David Lee Roth cut his nose open while frenetically twirling a baton during Panama. David rushed off stage and had the wound taped up quickly so he could finish the performance. Another thing that makes all the bands from our generation great, nothing got him down. The injury actually later required 14 stitches. Now, Panama was Van Halen's last top 40 single with DLR on lead vocals. Despite the band's monster achievements on 1984, the subsequent tour, and ever-increasing tensions between Eddie Van Halen and Roth marked Diamond Dave's departure from Van Halen on April Fool's Day, actually, 1985, if you remember that. Roth returned to the group very briefly in 96, and then was permanently reinstated as Van Halen's frontman in 2007. After the first two synth-laced singles from 1984, Jump and I'll Wait, Panama was just a refreshing return to Van Halen's guitar-dominated origin. It was a scalding hot, electrifying 3.5 minutes of hard rock, blunt force trauma. First time I heard this classic, it like cold cocked me across the room. Jump and I'll Wait, two of the greatest Van Halen hits for sure, especially the timeless anthem Jump, but like the vroom blaring from the Indy Motor Speedway.
Yeah, we're running a little bit hot tonight.
Panama exploded out of the speakers. It made you jump back, reeling with excitement. It's like DLR said, she's blinding, I'm flying, right behind the rearview mirror. Now got the feeling, power steering, pistons popping, ain't no stopping now. He may as well be talking about how the song makes you feel as a listener, really. I don't know about you, but 1984 was the first Van Halen record that I owned. I was attracted by the catchy synth of Jump. But I was swept off my feet by Panama. When I heard Eddie on this song, I was magnetized, spellbound by the magic that effortlessly emanated from his fingertips that entranced entire generations and lifted us to really a higher vibration of reality. Eddie Van Halen is just a special musician, and he will continue to enhance our musical experience forever. I always thought that The Heat Is On, Glenn Frey, may have been a little influenced by Panama. See if you can hear it.
The heat is on. The heat is on.
It may surprise some to know that Panama missed the top 10. It actually peaked at number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100, but that chart position does not accurately reflect our irrepressible exaltation for the song, especially when you're driving. Every time you get behind the wheel and you crank Panama up, we're running more than a little bit hot. We're boiling over. I would bet that more speeding tickets have come from this song, being blasted at a high volume seconds before the sirens begin to wail. And my favorite part, actually, it might be right after Eddie's monster solo, when he's playing that really moving guitar line. You know, in the middle of a party anthem, Eddie plays something that is incredibly haunting and inspiring. Let's talk about that for a second with Eddie passing and touring and getting to know those guys. Your thoughts on Eddie?
To me, he's the king. He's the GOAT, man. To me. What he was able to achieve on not just, I mean, obviously he was the most innovative guitar player of our generation. I think maybe quite possibly of any generation. But I'm sure I'm biased because I grew up and lived through his creative explosion and his dominance as a guitar player. It seemed I've never seen another guitar player that made something so complicated seem so effortless.
I know.
That guitar was, it's been said so many times about other players, but it was truly an extension of his spirit and his soul. I feel that everything he felt within him, he was able to articulate through the guitar and through his songwriting. Doesn't get enough credit as a songwriter, because his guitar playing is just otherworldly. He doesn't get enough credit as a great songwriter.
When you think about a song like Panama, I was just listening to that the other day. And I mean, it's a party song. You got David Lee Roth and he's DLR doing his thing, and it's just such a great song. But then you get to that part where DLR is kind of saying the words.
Yeah.
And Eddie, after Eddie's solo, he kind of plays something that's kind of like really haunting right there.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Oh, I totally know what you mean, without a doubt. That was, like I said, he created landscapes that he verbatim of what, at least how I feel, he was able to create landscapes verbatim of what he was feeling in his soul and his spirit. I think that it looked and sounded effortless.
For those haters and critics who always wrote these guys off as a party band, they really missed the boat. Van Halen truly were a different kind of truth, and Panama is one of the most thrilling rock and roll joyrides ever recorded, and most assuredly, #1 in our hearts. Leave us a comment about this amazing band, this incredible song. What do you remember about it? What do you recall about 1984, one of the greatest records ever? If you like this content, subscribe. Be a permanent part of this channel. You're going to love it. To hear this song, click on our playlist below. To get this shirt that I'm wearing or Van Halen's music, click on our Amazon links below. If you want to become a producer and help us curate this content, and you can also get other exclusives, join our Patreon link below. Help us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe.